students, hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome to your class on classical movements. I am Mrs. Kanimuri, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Nirmala College for Women. Let us move on to our video.
Classical movement. The classical movement is a literary movement which flourished during the 18th century. It is also called by three other names. The first one being the Augustan age. It is called so because it resembled that of the age of Emperor Augustus in the splendor of its literature. It is also known as the Neoclassical age because its writers looked back to the ideals and art forms of classical times, emphasizing the classical ideals of order and rational control. It is also known as the Age of Reason because the philosophical trends at that time stressed the superiority of reason over superstition and religion. The pioneers of classical movement. Edmund Waller and Sir John Denham are considered to be the pioneers of this new classical movement. They led a reaction against the metaphysical school of poets by writing charming verse on the classical models. Soon, these classical models became the accepted mode, and it reigned for a long and a remarkable period. Let us see the characteristics of the classical movement. Intellectual quality, artificial style, heroic couplet, treatment of town life, and respect for rules. Let us see one by one in detail. Treatment of town life. London was the hub for the writers, and every writer there found a patron for themselves to help them financially. Coffee houses became the meeting point of the writers. They discussed men and matters there. There existed during this time around 3,000 coffee houses in London. These coffee houses served to establish contact between authors and readers and between authors and authors. Dryden and Pope had their first meeting at a coffee house. All these paved way to draw many of the subjects of the writers from the town life rather than the countryside. Due to the London life, trending fashion and controversies, use of satire had a major scope in literature. The writers drove the influence of using satire from the classical and French masterpieces. Emergence of heroic couplet. Heroic couplets served as the best medium for realizing the poetic ideals of the time. Heroic couplets were widely employed in forms like drama, epic, and satires. The heroic couplets had rules of its own. It was first initiated by Waller and Denham and then systemized by Dryden and Pope. The heroic couplets shut the doors for the popular lyrical measures and blank verses. Being very precise, it became the natural expression of the intellectual mood of the age. Respect for rules. The 18th century classical movement gave importance to rules and discipline. The writers of this new school accepted and practiced rules and disciplines with much enthusiasm. These rules were reflected in almost all the forms, including verse, drama, epic, satire, ode, and pastorals. Any art which violated these rules were not considered good and accepted. The form was given more weightage than the content. Intellectual quality. Writers of this period were governed by the spirit of reason and good sense. The poems were bred more in the head than in the heart. In other words, emotions were not given much importance but intelligence. Though the masters of the classical movement wrote matters that aroused emotions, they never forgot to follow the classical rules and forms. Drama of the day dealt with the high passions but with chilly classicism. classical models did not attract the modern readers of the time, except for its wit. These writings had pregnant and memorable phrases that were descriptive, philosophical, malicious, critical, and pathetic. Alexander Pope of the classical movement is often quoted writer but for Shakespeare.
We have come to the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed learning about the classical movements. Thank you.